Should I still be a photographer? Whew. It's a great question. Hi, I'm Paige Ray. I am a commercial photographer and videographer in Los Angeles, and today me and both of my dogs apparently are going to talk to you about whether or not you should be a photographer. I've worked with about 200 plus clients. I've seen the industry shift dramatically over these last 10 years alone. I mean, God, over the last 5 years alone. And I've got a few things to say about it, so buckle up. Being a photographer today is so different than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago was when I became a photographer, and I had been working as a journalist, a writer, and an editor for 10 years at that point. And I went back to school to learn photography for about a year, and then I decided to go full time with it. And it was not an easy journey, and it would be very, very different today. 10 years ago, let me set the scene. I'm in my 9 to 5. I'm in my office, and I had a cool office. It overlooked everywhere. It overlooked all of downtown Los Angeles. I was on the west side of LA. It just had a great view. You could see like half of LA. It was so beautiful. I had a great team that I worked with. I really enjoyed my job. And I was working at my desk one day, and I looked at the street. I just looked out my window. I looked at the street down below, and I saw people walking around, and I thought, oh my God, what is it like to just be walking around on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. Like, what is your day if you don't have to be at a desk all day, every day? I had this conversation in my head that maybe I'm not as fulfilled as I think I am if I'm daydreaming about not being at my desk. So I decided to start taking art classes for the fulfillment. I thought I would just be fulfilled by the art classes, and I'm not good at drawing, I'm not good at painting, but it turned out I was really good at photography. And after doing a few different classes, I thought, maybe I could do this as a job. And I took more classes, and I started assisting, and I started learning, and then I took the leap and went full time, and that was really big and scary. And the other thing that I was doing at that time was getting a divorce, which made everything infinitely more complicated and scarier. And I had a decision. I could go back to my 9 to 5, or I could pursue photography full time and find a way to make ends meet. Obviously, that's what I decided to do. And I did make ends meet. I took different jobs. My rule for myself was I will work for somebody else as long as it makes me a better photographer. So I took every assisting job and second shooting job that came my way. And I was a studio manager for a headshot photographer in Pasadena who was amazing, and everyone I worked for taught me something different about being a photographer and made me better at what I did. And after a few years, the jobs I was booking as a photographer were enough to sustain me, so I didn't have to fill a gap anymore, right? I didn't have to fill the gap between what I was making as a photographer and what my bills were. I no longer had to take assisting jobs. I no longer had to do studio management. I was able to really be full-time, which was exciting. And then around that same time, I switched into commercial work. I had been doing weddings and family shoots, which I loved, but I kind of wanted my weekends back, and I found that weddings were actually really hard physically. I was starting to have back problems, and actually the last wedding I ever photographed, I had had a really significant back issue, but you can't call in sick when you're a wedding photographer. You have to shoot a full wedding day. And I did something halfway through that day, and I did something that hurt my back even more, and I just thought to myself, I don't know how I'm going to continue to stand, let alone shoot the rest of this day with this much pain. And obviously, I found some Tylenol and I just kept going, but it took weeks for my back to recover from that. And I thought, maybe physically I can't really do this anymore. Maybe I need to find another option. And not that commercial photography is less physically grueling, but the timelines are different. The rush is not the same. You can set your schedule a little bit better. And if something happens to me, if I get an injury before a shoot or during a shoot, we can reschedule the shoot. That is not world ending, but you can't reschedule a wedding. So I shifted much more into commercial photography around the time that I was finally getting fully booked. I loved it so much. And so I stuck with commercial photography, and I've been doing that. And I've watched the industry change dramatically, especially the last few years with the advent of AI and also just other different types of visuals. Obviously, video has become huge, and of course, video is something that I do. That's I'm being a responsible steward of my business by learning new skills and making new offers so that I can keep up with what the market is demanding. But also, there's stop motion, 3D, there's AI. There's so many different ways of creating visuals these days, and I don't want to learn all of them. Everybody's got their expertise, and it's not that I'm not interested in learning them. It's that the amount of time it would take to learn it, and the school, I'd have to go back to school. That costs money. There's a lot involved in developing a new skill. So I've decided what skills I'm going to develop, and I'm still going to find a way to be competitive in my market. So here I am today, still a full-time photographer. It's an interesting time, especially in Los Angeles. We had the fires in January. Los Angeles has already been slow for the last 2 years for various reasons. It's been hard to book any kind of project these last couple of years. So the work isn't as much in LA as it used to be. And beyond that, like, people's visual needs are changing and we're not as dependent on photos anymore. I find myself booking a lot more video shoots than I do photo shoots, and I love the video shoots, so that's not a problem for me. But when it comes down to it, if you're asking me, should you be a photographer? Should you go for it? What do you think? We're both in agreement. You should be a photographer, but I want you to know this about being a photographer. Your job is going to look different than you think it is. And that's the same thing that someone would have said to me in 2014 when I decided to become a photographer, because then things had shifted dramatically away from film photography. And I still learned film at the time because I just really enjoy film photography. But that's the evolution that the industry went through 20 years ago when digital cameras really became the standard. And so the industry is going through another shift right now, so you're going to have to stay on top of your skills and know that working for yourself demands that you stay on top of your skills in order to stay competitive. And you have to stay on top of the market in general to know what your clients are going to need and what they're going to want, what you can pitch to them. And I'll tell you this too, the number one things that you can be as a photographer is responsible and communicative. A brand is going to hire you or ask you to come back more so if you are able to respond to emails and get the project done on time and on budget and you make quality work. If you do all of that and you are somebody that people enjoy working with, you are more likely to get called back to work with people again than somebody who shows up late and maybe does amazing work but isn't very pleasant to work with. It's not about being the person in the room that does the best work. It's about being the person in the room that everybody wants to work with. So if you can be that person, then yeah, you can totally be a photographer. Just understand that your skills are going to evolve. You will start to lose relevance in your market if you don't pay attention to what's going on around you in terms of industry trends, but also I don't mean trends in terms of like what's trendy aesthetically. I mean in terms of like trends in terms of how people are booking, how people are communicating, the market actually needs in terms of visuals and how that changes over time. All right. So yes, go follow your dreams. Know that it's going to be hard. And if you are just starting out, whether you're coming out of school or you're changing careers, start assisting. Go find any assistant job that you can. And it doesn't matter what kind of assistant job either. You could be a photo assistant, but you could be somebody that cleans up a studio after a photo shoot. It doesn't matter. It's all important and you will learn from all of it. Spend time doing that while you're also spending time making your own work. All of that's going to be really vital to your career over time. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, follow along. I'm definitely so excited to be here. I want to answer your questions and make videos for you. Thanks for being here.